Well, with me this morning to review the Boxing Day papers is the journalist and author Yasmin Alibhai-Brown. Yasmin, lovely to see you. Merry Christmas to you. So, quite a lot in the papers to get through. We haven't got that much time. A lot about the King, but you've pulled out the front of the Guardian a cultural shift about stay-at-home dads as your first pick.
Yeah, this is quite fascinating because it's almost a sort of accidental good father story. The whole COVID period, of course, saw a lot of people, men and women, having to work from home or stay at home because their jobs didn't exist anymore or whatever. And according to The Guardian, this has led to a, in quotes, monumental cultural shift, with 1 in 9 fathers now stay-at-home dads doing the stuff that mums always did and had to kind of work and get everything fitted in around that. So the figures are interesting. It's sort of 1 in 9 now. I think it was 1 in 13 before. But I think if this is true, this means quite a remarkable thing. Because one of the things I think that's happened in almost every nation is that dads are disconnected from family life, except on a part-time basis, because that's the way society is structured. So it could mean a completely different kind of relationship with the father, much more active part of it. All that said, the article also does point out that women are still the main carers, still having to do most of the juggling, as you and I and everybody I know has had to do throughout their lives. But it's a lovely story, if true.
Yeah, and as you say, those figures are still quite low, aren't they? From 1 in 14 to 1 in 9. It is great for those families that are able to do that, but it's still not affecting most families, it seems. The Times, that's got a story about artificial intelligence. This is about bed blocking, and they think this is really going to make a difference to how people are discharged from hospital.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because I think everybody hyperventilates about how robots are going to take over and AI is going to solve all our problems. It's what that kind of story. It says that they're using AI to register when an older or elderly patient comes in, so they can alert care homes, they can predict stay at hospital time, and the whole thing would run smoother, all of which is very good because, machines in some ways are better than humans, not always. The problem is that we haven't got bed space in care homes either in many cases. So I can't see how this frightfully good system is going to work unless more is invested in the care sector. And this is something that politicians know and have spoken about for a long time, of all parties, and haven't really come up with a solution. So I think the system of discharge might work, but where they're discharged to may not yet exist.
Yes, because the streamlining seems like a sensible idea, but as you point out, there has to be the capacity at the other end, doesn't there? And that links in with a story on the front of the Eye, which was another one that you've picked. And this is about NHS targets. They're going to be swept away next year. This is a review by the former Labour Minister, Patricia Hewitt, to try and change things in the NHS.
What I don't understand is how Patricia Hewitt, and because it's only the front page I'm looking at, who's a Labour woman, ex-minister, is going to play a part in this reform plan. And the reform plan is basically, I think it was in the 90s, they introduced these quite strict systems that everybody had to follow, targets. And now they're going to drop targets, which is, I think, both good because the GPs think it's a very good idea, Royal College of GPs, but could also backfire because if you targets, I remember we had a target at one point of you will get to see your doctor, I think, in maximum 48 hours. And that was helpful if you were a patient because you had this number to say, hey, I've been guaranteed this. So in a way, it kind of, I think, did work, but often it became a tick box exercise. So, I don't know what Patricia Hewitt, has the Conservative government brought her in to do this? And she is very smart and she knows the National Health Service. But also, I hope they're thinking through the alternatives. Often changes are made in the National Health Service willy-nilly on a whim. And then it's later that people realise both the cost and the success or failure of new systems. And they take up an awful lot of work and an awful lot of money. But it's an interesting thing. If it's happening, why, and who's going to run it.
Indeed. We haven't had a chance to touch on the King. The Telegraph and the Sun have both got him on the front, but we'll talk about that in the next hour. Yasmin, lovely to talk to you. Thanks again. Still to come on Sky News Breakfast. Russia says 3 of its military personnel have been killed by falling wreckage from a Ukrainian drone that was apparently shot down over an airbase southeast of Moscow.